we are here at Dollars Aviation for our project on taxiing, starting of the engine, and storage of the airplane. Our instructor for today is Tom. Tom, good afternoon.
Okay. All right, we're going to learn how to taxi the airplane today. Mail that card in, and you'll get there. The headset, you got to talk close to the mic. Don't be afraid to talk. Now, we have a little sheet here that I've already made out for you. And you're going to be in a Cherokee. It's a Piper Pt.1, and the number is going to be November 82587. So when you took radio work, after we start the engine up, we're going to push the button and we're going to call it Manassas Ground, Cherokee 82587, Dulles Aviation, taxi to 34 left run-up block. And then they're going to come back and say Cherokee 82587, taxi to 34 left by Alpha. Well, Alpha is the taxiway. We're going to be right here, and this is the taxiway. So we're going to taxi down here, and we're going to come out and park right here. When we down there, we're going to roll the airplane about 2 or 3 feet forward to make sure the nose wheel is straight. In that case, the brakes fail, we know we're going straight. We're not turning sideways. And then when we finish the run-up, we're going to say Manassas Ground, Cherokee 82587, 34 left run-up block, taxi to Dulles Aviation. And they're going to say Cherokee 82587, taxi west ramp by Alpha. And that's the taxiway right here. It's named Alpha. And you're going to come back and say Cherokee 587, taxi to the west ramp. See, so that way they know they hold you. Now, we have some certain signage here. We can't, these double lines. On a runway, you can't cross a double line. A dash line you can go across, but you can never cross the solid lines. Now, on the ramp area, they only have one line, solid line, and one line of dash lines. But when you go to a runway, designates that the runway is there because they have the double lines. And you have to get permission to cross that from the tower. Okay? So that's how the radio work will go. Now, we're going to go over the briefing, and we're going to be in a Cherokee. So we're going to have this airplane here. And we look at the instrument panel. When you're taxiing, there's a compass up here. Then we have the airspeed indicator. It's powered by the pitot system. The attitude indicator, which is powered by the vacuum system. And the altimeter by the static system. The vertical speeds by the static system. And the heading indicators by the vacuum. It's a gyro by the vacuum system. And the turn coordinator is electric, and that's got a little red dot. When you turn the power to it, the dot should go out. And when you're taxiing, the airspeed should not wiggle because you shouldn't tap it that fast. But this should no more than 5 degrees. That should stay steady. You're going to set that altimeter at field elevation. So you'll take this little knob here and set it for 192, because that's how high we are above the ground. And then when we taxi in, this should match the compass. So you push this little button in here and turn it to match the compass. So when you're taxiing, you can see that it's following correctly. And then we have the radios. The instructor will tell you how to work the radio. You'll use that check sheet on there. We have the instruments. When we turn it on, the master switch on, and the battery switch is with it, which is the alternator switch. Then we have the electric fuel pump. Since this airplane has low wings, it's got to have a pump to pump it up. So we have two. We have a mechanical pump on the engine, and we have an electric pump as a boost pump, they call it. It's a backup pump. So you turn it on, take off and land. So you turn that on without the engine running, and you watch your fuel pressure. And the fuel pressure should come up. Then when you start the engine, and you have a little sheet here, down the line it says electric pump off. You turn it off and check the pressure, and the pressure's still there, then the mechanical pump on the engine's working. So, and then we got to have as soon as we start it up, we're going to have oil pressure and oil temperature. The temperature's going to be pretty low, but as we go down there and taxi, it'll be okay. And we have the tack, and the tack is what we're going to use to go by. Now the tack here is a 2400 tack, I think. It might be a 2300. What that means is at 2300 RPM for 1 hour, this will register 1 hour. If you did it at 2400 RPM, it would register a little more than an hour in an hour's time. If you run at 2100 RPM, then that in an hour's time it wouldn't register that. So they use that tack for engine time. And then we have a Hobbs meter that is on there. When you start the engine, that is running to show you how long you've been running. That's how you charge your flight time. And that's electric. And it's electric, and oil pressure system closes and starts it. All right. So where are we? We have a suction gauge over here. And they call it, some of them call it vacuum, suction gauge, whatever it is. It's a vacuum pump which operates at the pressure. On the Cessnas, we're not going to fly in a Cessna, but they have a little different suction gauge over here. See? And it does the same thing. And we have the alternate static source. Right underneath here, there's a little valve, just like the gas. It's a little thing that you turn to check the alternate static source is working. And when you turn it, you watch the vertical speed in the altimeter, and when you turn it, the pressure changes, and that'll wiggle a little bit to show that's working. But we normally don't use that. And then when you start it up, you have your oil temperature and oil pressure. So it should start up pretty quick. As soon as it starts up, you don't want to run it at a high RPM until the oil pressure is coming up. And the oil temperature will come up. By the time you go to the run-up block and do the run-up, it'll come into the green. We don't take off when it's not in the green. Okay, then, and we have the flight instrument group. And these are basically all the same in all airplanes. Airspeed, attitude, altimeter, vertical speed, heading indicator, and turn coordinator. Now there's a little compass ball in here that you keep it straight. And so that's the flight instrument group. And as you're talking, you're looking at that to see. And you always put seatbelts on. And then fuel quantity gauge. You're going to look in the tanks and see how much fuel is in there. And then you're going to turn the pump on, and you got two fuel. You got left and right fuel. Now down here at your knee, there's a valve that turns it on off, left, and right. When you turn off turn it to off, there's a little button you got to push so it'll permit it to turn off. Now a guy took that button, it stopped, and he took it and turned it off on me, and I didn't know it, and then I said go around, and we started climbing, the engine quit. But I put it on the ground. I knew what had happened, so I always check. I make sure to see which one they're turning it to and watch the fuel pressure. 2 times people have done that to me. So that's your fuel quantity. The tack, we talked about the tack. You're gonna, on your run-up, down here, you'll run up, it'll say RPM 2000. So you'll bring up the power to 2000. And you see the tack, sometimes they have different ranges. They have the normal range that you'd be flying it at is somewhere on this one between 1700 and 2400 RPM. When you get up here, you shouldn't be going too much in that speed. Cold weather, you could get it up there, but you get the never exceed, which is the red thing. It's just like on the airspeed indicator, you have a red line up here. That means, that really is another word for that. If you go that fast, it means the wings off. Wings won't stay on.
What do you mean the wings off?
It means you're going too fast, the wings will rip off the airplane.
Oh, okay.
That's wings off. Now, we have circuit breakers. And these are all circuit breakers that you can't do anything with. You have the autopilot, you can pull it out. So if you need to turn the autopilot, you can pull it out. But you want to always check that when you get in the airplane, you see that they're all in. If one pops, it could be a surge of power, so you put it back in. If it pops a second time, you got to find out what's wrong. And what you want to do when you're flying the airplane or taxiing it is feel how hot these things get under normal circumstances. They do get hot. So if you don't know how hot they are normally, and you get in there and touch, hey, this is warm, but you hadn't touched them before, you don't know whether that's normal or not normal.